Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the stars through the big window. His metal arm made a soft clicking sound as he moved it. The arm was not real anymore. He had lost the real one in a war on Mars many years ago. Now, he was the captain of the biggest human ship in space, the Soul's Pride. The ship was flying through empty space near the edge of the galaxy. Other ships flew with them. All the ships together made the human fleet called Taeguk. They were far from Earth, watching for trouble in this quiet part of space. "Captain," said Commander Park Mi-ran. She was standing at her station, looking at bright screens full of numbers and pictures. "I am getting something strange on the radio." Dae-ho walked over to her. His heavy boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. "What kind of strange?" "It sounds like a call for help, but it is very weak and broken. Park Mi-ran was the smartest person on the ship when it came to fighting and planning battles. If she said something was strange, Dae-ho always listened. She had saved their lives many times with her smart ideas." "Put it on the speakers," Dae-ho said. The bridge became quiet. Then they heard it. A voice that sounded like it was underwater, speaking words they could barely understand. "Help! Please help! Shadow Fleet's coming! They eat everything! Worlds are dying! Please!" The voice stopped. Only static noise came from the speakers now. "Can you make it clearer?" Dae-ho asked. "I am trying," Park Mi-ran said. Her fingers moved fast on her controls. "The signal is very old. Maybe it took weeks to reach us." Lieutenant Kim Jae-wook looked up from his pilot station. He was young, maybe 25 years old. His hair was always messy, and he smiled too much. But he could fly a ship better than anyone. "Captain, that sounded like the Vellani people." Dr. Choi Hye-jin walked onto the bridge. She was the ship's doctor and the person who knew the most about alien life. "The Vellani? That is impossible. They live in a peaceful part of space. They have not had any wars for hundreds of years." "Play it again," Dae-ho said. They listened to the broken message 3 more times. Each time, Dae-ho felt something cold in his stomach. He had heard scared voices before during the wars. This voice sounded the same way people sounded when they were about to die. "There is something else," Park Mi-ran said. She was looking at her screens with a worried face. "The signal has a special pattern in it. The same pattern we found around New Jeju colony." Everyone on the bridge became very quiet. New Jeju was a human colony that had disappeared 5 years ago. One day it was there, sending normal messages. The next day, nothing. When ships went to look, they found empty space where a planet used to be. Only strange radiation was left. Behind. "Are you sure?" Dae-ho asked. "Yes, Captain. The pattern is exactly the same." Dae-ho felt his metal arm get tight. He always did that when he was thinking hard. "Send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them about this signal." The Galactic Council was like a government for all the different alien races in the galaxy. Humans had joined the council only 2 years ago. Most of the other aliens still thought humans were too violent and stupid. They called humans Deathworlders, because Earth was such a dangerous planet to live on. 1 hour later, they got an answer from the council. Park Mi-ran read it out loud. "The council says the signal is just broken equipment. They say the Vellani sector is safe and quiet. They order us to ignore the signal and continue our normal patrol." "Broken equipment," Kim Jae-wook said with anger in his voice. "Did broken equipment make our colony disappear too?" "The council does not want to hear about that," Dr. Choi said sadly. "They think we humans see danger everywhere because we come from a dangerous world." Dae-ho walked back to the big window. He looked at the stars and thought about the scared voice in the message. He thought about New Jeju colony and how 20,000 people had just vanished. He thought about his metal arm and all the battles he had fought to protect innocent people. "Captain," Park Mi-ran said quietly, "what are your orders?" Daeho was quiet for a long time. Then he turned around and looked at his crew. These people trusted him. They had followed him through many dangerous situations. Now he had to make a choice that could get them all in trouble. "How long would it take to reach the Vellani system?" he asked. Kim Jae-wook checked his navigation computer. 3 days if we use maximum speed." "And how long before the council notices we are not on our patrol route?" "Maybe 4 days," Park Mi-ran said. Daeho nodded. He made his choice. Set course for the Vellani system. Maximum speed. "Captain," Dr. Choi said with worry, "the council will be very angry. They might arrest us." "Maybe," Daeho said. "But if that voice was real, if people are dying, then we have to try to help them. That is what humans do." The crew looked at each other. Then Park Mi-ran smiled. "Setting course for Vellani system." Kim Jae-wook laughed. "Finally, some real action." Dr. Choi shook her head, but she was smiling too. "I will prepare the medical bay." The Soul's Pride turned toward a new direction. The other ships in the fleet followed. They all trusted their captain, even when he was going against orders. As they flew through space toward the unknown, Daeho felt the cold feeling in his stomach get stronger. Something terrible was waiting for them in the Vellani system, something that had made a whole colony disappear. But humans did not run away from terrible things. They ran toward them, ready to fight. The stars grew brighter as they flew faster through the darkness of space. 3 days later, the human fleet came out of hyperspace near the Vellani homeworld. What they saw made everyone on the bridge stop talking. The beautiful blue planet was still there, but everything around it was wrong. Huge metal structures that used to build spaceships were being torn apart by strange creatures. These creatures looked like a mix of machines and living things. They had long metal arms with sharp claws, and their bodies glowed with an evil purple light. "What are those things?" Kim Jae-wook whispered. Dr. Choi was looking at her scanner screens. Her face was very pale. "I do not know. They are part machine, part alive. I have never seen anything like them." Captain Daeho watched the creatures destroy the Vellani shipyards. The creatures were eating the metal. Not just taking it apart, but actually eating it. They grew bigger every time they swallowed a piece of metal or machinery. "Captain," said Yam Tae-young from the communications station. He was a thin man who was very good at understanding alien languages. "I am picking up signals from under the ocean. The Vellani are still alive down there." "What are they saying?" "They are scared. They keep talking about shadow fleets and world eaters. They say their weapons do not work against these creatures." Suddenly, alarms started ringing all over the ship. Park Mi-ran looked at her screens with wide eyes. "Captain, more ships are coming out of hyperspace. It is Admiral Song with a council fleet." Admiral Song Ki-tae appeared on the main screen. He was an older man with gray hair and a very angry face. Behind him, Daeho could see the bridge of the flagship Incheon's Wrath. "Captain Lee Daeho," the admiral said in a cold voice. "You disobeyed direct orders from the Galactic Council. You will surrender your command immediately and return to Earth for trial." "Admiral," Daeho said, "look around you. The Vellani are under attack. People are dying. I see some unknown aliens cleaning up old space junk. The Council says this is Normal industrial work. Before Daeho could answer, one of the strange creatures turned toward the council ships. It was huge, maybe the size of a city block. Its purple eyes looked directly at them through space. "Admiral," Park Miran said quickly, "I think we should—" The creature shot a beam of purple energy at one of the council ships. The ship's shields lit up to protect it. But instead of bouncing off the shields, the purple energy seemed to eat through them. The shields got weaker and weaker until they disappeared completely. "What is happening?" Admiral Song shouted. "Return fire!" The council ships shot their powerful laser weapons at the creature. The lasers hit it directly, but instead of hurting the creature, the laser energy made it bigger and stronger. It grew new arms and its purple glow became brighter. "It is absorbing our weapons," Dr. Choi said with horror. "It eats energy just like it eats metal." More creatures came toward the council fleet. They moved through space like hungry sharks swimming toward food. The council ships kept shooting, but every shot just made the creatures stronger. "All ships, retreat immediately," Admiral Song ordered, but it was too late. The creatures surrounded 3 council ships. They attached themselves to the hulls and began eating through the metal. Daeho could hear the screams of the alien crews over the radio. "We have to help them," Kim Jae-wook said. "With what?" Park Miran asked. "Our energy weapons will just make those things stronger." Daeho thought fast. These creatures ate energy and metal. But what about old-fashioned weapons? What about things that just hit hard without any fancy energy? "Kim, take a small scout ship. Get close to one of those creatures, but stay away from its energy beams." "What are you planning, Captain?" "I want to try something stupid. Take some of our old kinetic missiles, the ones we used in the Mars War. No energy, just big pieces of metal moving very fast." Kim Jae-wook smiled. "Now you are talking my language." 5 minutes later, Kim's scout ship Busan Runner was flying toward the nearest creature. The creature saw him coming and shot purple energy beams. But Kim was a very good pilot. He flew around the beams like he was dancing. When he got close enough, he fired 2 kinetic missiles. These were just big chunks of metal with rocket engines. No lasers, no plasma, no energy shields. Just metal hitting metal very hard. The missiles hit the creature in its center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the creature made a terrible screaming sound. Purple blood came out of the holes where the missiles hit. The creature let go of the council ship it was eating and floated away, hurt and confused. "It worked!" Kim shouted over the radio. "The stupid thing does not know how to deal with simple missiles." "All ships," Daeho commanded, "switch to kinetic weapons only. No energy weapons of any kind." The human fleet had lots of kinetic weapons. Humans had been fighting wars with bullets and missiles for thousands of years. While other aliens had developed fancy energy weapons, humans still kept the old ways of fighting. The battle changed quickly. The creatures that had been growing stronger from energy weapons were now getting hurt by simple metal bullets and missiles. They tried to adapt, but their bodies were designed to absorb energy, not to stop fast-moving chunks of metal. "Captain," Dr. Choi said, "I am scanning the creatures that we hurt. They are trying to change their bodies to protect against kinetic weapons, but it is taking them a long time." "How long?" "Maybe an hour for each creature to fully adapt." Admiral Song's voice came over the radio. He sounded very different now. Not angry, but amazed. "Captain Lee, how did you know to use kinetic weapons?" "Lucky guess, Admiral. On Earth, when you do not know what you are fighting, you hit it with a big stick and see what happens." More creatures came from deeper in space. There were hundreds of them, all heading toward the human and council ships. But now the humans knew how to fight them. Every ship with kinetic weapons joined the battle. Kwon Soo-jin, the chief engineer, discovered something else. Captain, these creatures have tiny robots inside them. The robots eat technology and send information back to the main group. That is how they learn to fight our weapons. Can we stop the tiny robots? Not with energy weapons. But maybe we can use electromagnetic pulses, the old kind that just make electronics stop working. The battle went on for hours. Every time the humans found a new way to hurt the creatures, more creatures came to learn from the experience. It was like fighting an enemy that never forgot anything and always got smarter. But humans had something the creatures did not expect. Humans were good at changing their plans quickly. When one weapon stopped working, they tried something completely different. As the last creature retreated into deep space, Admiral Song called Day-Ho again. Captain, the Council will want to know everything about these creatures, and they will want to know how humans knew to fight them this way. Day-Ho looked at his tired crew. They had won this battle, but he could feel that it was just the beginning. Admiral, I think we need to talk to the Villani survivors. They might know where these creatures came from. In the dark of space, far from the battle, something much bigger was watching. Something that had learned everything it needed to know about humans and their strange way of fighting. The Villani survivors lived in beautiful underwater cities beneath their ocean. Captain Day-Ho, Dr. Choi, and Admiral Song took a small submarine down to meet them. The water was crystal clear and full of strange fish that glowed with soft colors. Elder Thalanis was the leader of the Villani people. She looked like a tall, thin person with blue skin and gills instead of ears. Her large black eyes were full of sadness. "Thank you for coming," she said in perfect human language. "We thought we would all die today." "Tell us about these creatures," Admiral Song said. "Where did they come from?" "We call them the Devourers," Thalanis explained. "They came from the dark space between galaxies. First, they sent small ships to study us. We thought they were peaceful explorers, so we welcomed them." Dr. Choi leaned forward. "What happened then?" "They learned everything about us. How we think, how we fight, what our technology can do. Then the main fleet arrived and began destroying everything. Our energy weapons just made them stronger. Our metal ships became food for them." Day-Ho felt his metal arm click. "How many worlds have they attacked?" "Hundreds," Thalanis said quietly. "They have been moving through our galaxy for 5 years, consuming everything. Each world they destroy makes them smarter and stronger." "What about the other council races? Why did they not fight back?" "They tried. The Zentaurians sent their most powerful war fleet. The Devourers absorbed their plasma weapons and became immune to energy attacks. The Mokari tried to hide their planets behind force fields. The Devourers learned to eat force fields." Admiral Song looked worried. "Then how did humans succeed where everyone else failed?" Elder Thalanis studied Day-Ho with her large eyes. "You used weapons that were primitive. The Devourers have conquered hundreds of advanced species, but they have never faced beings who still fight with simple metal projectiles." Back on the Soul's Pride, the human crew was preparing for something no one had ever tried before. They were going to board one of the injured Devourer ships. Sergeant O. Dong Min was getting his Marines ready. He was a short, tough man with scars on his face from fighting on Earth's most dangerous continents. His soldiers were checking their weapons, simple guns that shot metal bullets, grenades that exploded with chemical energy, and knives made of sharp steel. "Remember," O told his men, "no energy weapons at all. If it needs batteries or power, cells, leave it behind. We fight like our great-grandfathers fought on Earth." Lieutenant Nam Yu-ri was working with the weapons experts. She was a small woman with very quick hands who could fix any gun or make any explosive device. "I have modified our ammunition," she said. "Pure metal bullets with no electronics, chemical, explosives with no guidance systems. Simple weapons for a simple job." Captain Bae Jun-ho commanded the assault ship Gwangju's Hammer. It was an old ship designed for close fighting, not fancy space battles. "My ship will ram their hull," he said. "Then the Marines can board through the hole." "That is suicide," Admiral Song said. "Maybe," Dae-ho replied, "but humans are good at suicide missions." The injured Devourer ship was floating in space, trying to repair itself. It was huge, the size of a small city. Its hull looked like it was alive, with veins of purple energy running through organic metal. Captain Bae's ship flew straight at the Devourer. The creature ship shot energy beams, but Bae had turned off all his shields and electronic systems. The energy beams had nothing to grab onto. They just passed through empty space. The Gwangju's Hammer hit the Devourer ship like a giant hammer hitting an egg. The impact made a huge hole in the creature's side. Immediately, Sergeant O and his Marines jumped through the hole with jetpacks. Inside the Devourer ship, everything was wrong. The walls were alive and breathing. Strange lights pulsed through organic tubes. The air smelled like rotting metal and old blood. "Stay together," O commanded. "Do not touch anything that glows." The Marines moved through corridors that twisted and turned like the inside of a giant animal. Purple creatures the size of dogs attacked them. The Marines shot them with simple bullets, and the creatures died easily. Their bodies were designed to absorb energy, not to stop chunks of metal. "These things have never been shot before," one Marine laughed as he reloaded his rifle. They found the ship's brain in the center. It was a huge, pulsing mass of organic computers and mechanical parts. Thousands of small robots crawled over its surface, repairing damage and processing information. "Plant the charges," O ordered. The Marines placed simple chemical explosives around the brain. No timers, no electronic detonators, just old-fashioned fuses that burned at a steady rate. As they ran back to their ship, the Devourer's defenses tried to stop them. Living walls moved to block their path. Poisonous gas filled the air. Electric fields sparked around them. But the Marines had trained for urban warfare on Earth. They knew how to fight in tight spaces against enemies that had every advantage. They used their knives when their guns ran out of bullets. They held their breath when poison filled the air. They jumped over electric fields like they were jumping over puddles. The explosion destroyed the Devourer's brain. The huge ship stopped, moving, and began to drift in space. Its purple lights went dark. "We did it," O reported. "The creature is dead." But their victory came with a terrible discovery. Dr. Choi had been studying the data from inside the Devourer ship. Her face was very pale when she spoke to Captain Dae-ho. "Captain, I found something in their computer system. The ship we just destroyed was only a scout. There is a main fleet coming." "How many ships?" 1,000, maybe more, and they are all much bigger than this one. Admiral Song looked at the readings. "When will they arrive?" 6 months, Doctor, Choi said quietly. "They will come to Earth first. They want to study the planet that created warriors who can fight them." Dae-ho felt cold inside his chest. Earth had 4 billion people. Most of them had never seen a spaceship, let alone fought in space battles. "We need to warn the Council," Admiral Song said. "Will they believe us?" Dae-ho asked. After today, they will believe anything humans tell them about fighting. As the human fleet prepared to return to Earth, they did not know that something was watching them from deep space. The Devourer main fleet had seen everything that happened. They had learned about human weapons and human tactics, but most importantly, they had learned that humans would fight to the death to protect their friends. This was something new for the Devourers, something they had never encountered in all their thousands of years of conquest. The creatures that ruled the Devourer fleet began to prepare for the strangest war they had ever fought. A war against beings who refused to be logical, who used primitive weapons, and who seemed to enjoy impossible battles. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Devourers felt something they had forgotten how to feel. They felt afraid. 6 months later, Earth was a different world. Every nation had stopped fighting each other and started building weapons. Factories that used to make cars now made missiles. Farmers learned how to shoot guns. Children practiced hiding in bomb shelters. Commander Shin Hai-won was working in a secret base under the mountains of Korea. She was very smart at understanding how enemies think and fight. For months, she had been studying everything they knew about the Devourers. "I think I found their weakness," she told Captain Daeho during a video call. "What kind of weakness?" "They think like a giant computer. Everything they do follows patterns and rules. When they see a problem, they try to find the best solution using math and logic." Daeho was on his ship, flying with the biggest fleet Earth had ever built. Hundreds of human ships were spread across the solar system, waiting for the enemy. "So how does that help us?" "Humans do not think like computers," Shin explained. "We make decisions based on feelings, hope, and sometimes just because we are angry. The Devourers cannot predict what we will do because we do not always do the smart thing." Dr. Yoon Se-ra was listening to the conversation from her laboratory on Earth. She was a scientist who studied the strange physics of space and time. "I have been working on something based on Shin's idea," she said. "I call it Chaos Protocols." "What does that mean?" Daeho asked. "Instead of fighting with careful plans, we fight with no plans at all. We use random attack patterns that change every few minutes. The Devourers will not be able to adapt because there is nothing to adapt to." Major Lim Chan-woo spoke up from his military base. He was a Special Forces soldier who specialized in very dangerous missions. "My teams have been practicing something even crazier. We are going to fly small ships directly into their big ships and blow them up from the inside." "That is suicide," Admiral Song said. "Not if we do it right," Lim replied. "We have been studying the Devourer ship we captured. Their internal defenses are all designed to fight energy weapons and organized attacks. They do not expect soldiers with grenades running through their corridors." The first Devourer ships appeared at the edge of the solar system on a Tuesday morning. They came out of hyperspace slowly, like they were being very careful. There were more ships than anyone had imagined. The fleet stretched across space like a dark cloud. "Count?" Admiral Song asked. 1,200 ships, reported the sensor operator. "Some of them are bigger than our space stations." Captain Daeho looked at his small fleet of human ships. They had maybe 300 vessels, and most of them were converted civilian ships with simple weapons attached. "All ships," he broadcast. "Remember the plan. No energy weapons until I give the order. Kinetic weapons only. And when things get crazy, get more crazy." The Devourer fleet moved toward Earth like a slow, careful machine. Their ships stayed in perfect formation. Every movement was calculated and precise. The human fleet scattered in all directions like frightened fish. To the Devourers, it looked like the humans were running away in panic. But it was all part of the Chaos Protocol. Dr. Yoon had programmed random number generators into every ship's computer. The human captains were following completely random flight paths that changed every 30 seconds. When the Devourers tried to predict where the human ships would go next, they were always wrong. The humans were not following any logical pattern because there was no pattern to follow. The first battle happened near Mars. Captain Bae Jun-ho's ship, Gwangju's Hammer, was flying alone, apparently lost and confused. 3 Devourer ships moved to capture it. "Now," Bae said quietly. Suddenly, 20 human ships appeared from behind Mars's moons. They had been hiding there for hours, waiting for this moment. They fired thousands of kinetic missiles at the Devourer ships. The Devourer's shields absorbed some of the missiles, but there were too many. Metal projectiles tore through their hulls like bullets through paper. 2 of the Devourer ships were destroyed immediately, but the 3rd ship adapted quickly. Its hull became thicker and harder. When the next wave of missiles hit, they just bounced off. "Adaptation time is getting faster," Dr. Choi reported. 20 minutes instead of an hour. Then, "We need to hit them harder before they can adapt," Dae-ho said. "Major Lim's special forces were ready." They flew tiny ships that were basically just engines with life support systems. No shields, no heavy weapons, just fast movement and chemical explosives. "Kamikaze run starting now," Lim announced. His ships accelerated directly at the largest Devourer vessel. The enemy ship shot energy beams, but the human ships were too small and fast to hit easily. Most of the beams missed completely. The first suicide ship hit the Devourer's hull and exploded. The explosion was not very big, but it made a hole. The second ship flew through the hole and exploded inside. Then the 3rd ship, and the 4th. Each explosion made the hole bigger. After 10 ships had blown themselves up, there was a huge gap in the Devourer's side. Its internal atmosphere rushed out into space. But the real surprise came next. The hole was not just for destroying the ship, it was a door. Sergeant Oh Dong-min and 50 Marines flew through the hole in armored suits. They carried the simplest weapons humanity had ever made, rifles that shot metal bullets, knives made of steel, and grenades filled with chemicals that exploded. Inside the Devourer ship, the fighting was unlike anything in the galaxy's history. The ship's defenses tried to stop the Marines with energy fields and poison gas. But humans had been fighting in toxic environments for millions of years. The Marines wore gas masks and rubber suits. When energy fields blocked their path, they threw metal objects to short-circuit them. When living walls tried to crush them, they cut through with chainsaws. "This is Sergeant O," came his voice over the radio. "We have reached their command center. It looks like a giant brain made of computers." "Plant the charges and get out," Dae-ho ordered. "Already done, sir. Chemical timer set for 5 minutes. The Marines fought their way back to their ships. Behind them, the Devourer ship was trying to adapt to their weapons. New defenses were growing in the corridors, but it was too late. The explosion destroyed the ship's brain. Without its central control system, the massive vessel began to break apart. Across the solar system, human ships were using the same tactics: chaos attacks, suicide runs, and boarding parties with primitive weapons. The Devourers could not adapt fast enough because every human attack was different from the last one. But the enemy was learning too. The Devourer fleet began to copy human tactics. Their ships started moving in random patterns. They began using kinetic weapons instead of energy beams. "They are adapting to our adaptations," Commander Shin observed. "Then we need to out-crazy them," Deho replied. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and humans were going to show the galaxy what happened when logical machines tried to fight emotional warriors who refused to follow any rules. The main Devourer fleet reached Earth on a Thursday. 1,000 alien ships hung in space around the blue planet like a dark metal storm. Each ship was the size of a city, covered with weapons and armor that had absorbed the knowledge of 100 conquered worlds. Fleet Admiral Kang Min-seo stood on the bridge of the new flagship Soul's Vengeance. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice could make admirals twice her size follow orders without question. She had spent her whole life fighting wars, and now she faced the biggest war in human history. "Status report," she said calmly. "Enemy. Fleet is taking position around Earth," reported Captain Deho from his ship. "They are not attacking yet. I think they are studying us." "Let them study," Admiral Kang replied. "Dr. Hong, are your special weapons ready?" Dr. Hong Eun-jung was floating in space near the asteroid belt. She was an engineer who had spent 6 months turning asteroids into giant weapons. The rocks looked normal, but inside they were filled with engines, explosives, and human crews. "Asteroid. Weapons are ready," Hong reported. "We have turned 50 space rocks into flying bombs. The Devourers will not see them coming until it is too late." Colonel Ryu Jun-sik was on Earth's surface with 10 million soldiers. They were spread across every continent, hidden in cities and forests and mountains. Each soldier carried simple weapons, rifles, grenades, and knives. "Ground forces ready," Ryu announced. "If they want Earth, they will have to take it one city at a time." The battle began when the Devourers sent down small ships to study Earth's cities. They expected to find advanced defenses and energy shields. Instead, they found something much more dangerous. They found humans who were angry. The first Devourer scout ship landed in Seoul. It was a beautiful machine made of living metal that sparkled in the sunlight. Tentacles came out of its sides to take samples of the ground and air. Then a little old grandmother named Mrs. Kim walked up to it with a kitchen knife. "Get off my planet," she said, and stabbed the tentacle. The Devourer ship had never been attacked with a kitchen knife before. Its defenses were designed to stop laser weapons and plasma cannons. A sharp piece of metal wielded by an angry grandmother was not in its programming. The tentacle started bleeding purple blood. The ship made confused beeping sounds and tried to fly away. But Mrs. Kim had called her neighbors, and soon 50 humans with kitchen knives, baseball bats, and garden tools were attacking the alien ship. The ship could have easily killed all of them with its energy weapons, but it was trying to study humans, not fight them. By the time it realized the difference, it was too late. The humans had cut through its hull with simple tools and were climbing inside. Similar scenes were happening all over Earth. Devourer ships that could destroy armies were being overwhelmed by ordinary people with simple weapons and a lot of anger. In space, the real battle was getting started. The Devourer main fleet began moving toward Earth's orbital stations. They expected the humans to fight back with energy weapons and fancy tactics. Instead, Dr. Hong's asteroids suddenly came to life. Space rocks had been drifting in the asteroid belt for months, looking completely normal. The Devourers had scanned them and decided they were just natural debris. They were wrong. 50 asteroids suddenly lit up their hidden engines and accelerated toward the Devourer fleet. Each asteroid was the size of a building and moving as fast as a bullet. There were no shields or weapons on them, just rock and metal and chemical explosives. "Asteroid impact in 30 seconds, Dr. Hong announced. The Devourers tried to shoot down the asteroids with energy beams, but the rocks were just rocks. They absorbed some energy and kept coming. The aliens tried to grab them with tractor beams, but humans had hidden the asteroid's engines inside layers of simple iron and stone. The first asteroid hit a Devourer cruiser like a hammer hitting glass. The ship cracked in half and began spinning, out of control. The second asteroid hit another ship, then the third and fourth and fifth. Direct hits on 12 enemy ships, reported the tactical officer. But the Devourers were adapting. Their remaining ships spread out to avoid more asteroid impacts. They began shooting kinetic weapons instead of energy beams. Some of them even started ramming human ships like angry bulls. "They are learning to fight like us," Captain Deho observed. "Then we learned to fight like something else," Admiral Kang replied. She activated the final part of humanity's plan. All across the solar system, civilian ships began broadcasting surrender. Messages. "This is Admiral Kang." Her voice went out on all frequencies. "Human forces are surrendering. We cannot fight your superior technology. Please accept our defeat and spare our planet." The Devourer fleet slowed down. In their collective mind, they were processing this new information. Humans were giving up? This was not what their studies had predicted. For 10 minutes, the battle stopped. Both fleets floated in space, waiting. Then Captain Bae Jun-ho's voice came over the radio, full of laughter. "Surprise, you metal bastards!" Every human ship that had been broadcasting surrender suddenly opened fire at the same time. But they were not using kinetic weapons or energy beams. They were using something much more primitive. They were using nuclear missiles. Hundreds of ancient nuclear warheads flew toward the Devourer fleet. These were not sophisticated weapons. They were crude bombs that had been built 50 years ago during Earth's wars. Simple fission devices that just made very big explosions. The Devourers had never encountered nuclear weapons before. Their adaptation systems were designed for energy-based attacks or kinetic projectiles. Nuclear fission was something completely different. The splitting of atoms to release pure destruction. The first nuclear explosion vaporized 3 Devourer ships instantly. The second explosion destroyed 5 more. Each blast sent out electromagnetic pulses that disabled nearby Devourer. "Electronics. Nuclear strike successful," reported the weapons officer. "Enemy fleet is in chaos." But the Devourers recovered quickly. Their ships began adapting to nuclear explosions, growing new armor that could absorb radioactivity. They learned to shield their electronics from electromagnetic pulses. The final phase of the battle was the strangest in galactic history. Human ships began playing music over their radio systems. Not military communications or tactical data, but songs. Rock music, classical symphonies, folk songs from every nation on Earth. The music confused the Devourer collective mind. They had absorbed the knowledge of logical, peaceful species. But human music was pure emotion, joy, sadness, anger, love, hope, and defiance all mixed together. Colonel Ryu's ground forces joined in. 10 million soldiers began singing while they fought. They sang old war songs, national anthems, and songs their grandmothers had taught them. The Devourer ships in Earth's atmosphere began to malfunction. Their computer brains could not process the chaos of human emotion expressed through music. Some ships began flying in circles. Others just stopped moving and floated helplessly. "What is happening to them?" Dr. Choi asked. "They are having nervous breakdowns," Admiral Kang replied. "Their collective consciousness cannot handle our irrationality." The largest Devourer ship, the size of a small moon, began to retreat toward the edge of the solar system. It was trying to escape the music, the chaos, and the madness of fighting humans. Captain Dae-ho took his ship in pursuit. "This is Captain Lee Dae-ho to all human forces. One last song, everyone together." Across the solar system, every human began to sing the same song. It was an old song that every child learned, about their home planet and the people they loved. The Devourer ship tried to block out the singing, but human radio waves were everywhere. The music filled space like a tide of pure human emotion. Finally, the Devourer collective mind could not take any more. The great ship stopped moving and sent out a signal in perfect human language. We surrender. We do not understand your species. You fight with primitive weapons, but you cannot be defeated. You use emotions instead of logic. You sing songs while you die. We cannot adapt to beings who refuse to make sense. Admiral Kang opened a communication channel to the Devourer ship. This is Fleet Admiral Kang of Earth. We accept your surrender. But understand this. If you ever threaten any peaceful species, again, we will hunt you down. Humans do not forget, and we do not forgive those who hurt innocent people. The remaining Devourer ships began jumping to hyperspace, fleeing toward the dark space between galaxies. They had conquered hundreds of worlds, but they could not conquer one planet full of beings who fought with kitchen knives and sang songs during battles. As the last alien ship disappeared, Earth's radio systems erupted with cheers from every human in the solar system. Captain Dayho looked out at the stars and smiled. Somewhere out there, peaceful species were probably getting the news that the Devourers had been defeated by a planet full of crazy warriors who refused to follow any rules. "Think they will come back?" he asked Admiral Kang. "Maybe," she replied. "But if they do, we will still be here. We will still be human. And we will still be completely impossible to understand. The galaxy would never be the same." Word spread quickly that Earth's Deathworlders had defeated the ancient enemy using music, kitchen knives, and nuclear weapons. Other species began, asking humans to teach them how to fight with emotions instead of logic. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy.